Hello, I'm Robin. Welcome to Bookspin. So I've just read my first book of the year, The Coming of the Strangers by John Lymington, published in 1961. I chose this book purely for this amazing cover illustration, which I think is the bee's knees. Unfortunately, the book itself failed to impress me. It does have quite an intriguing sci-fi horror premise. So we've got this small coastal hamlet community which is afflicted with some rather strange goings-on. Bizarre footprints appear out of nowhere on the beach. Rumours of poltergeists are flying around. And then one day, a tramp, while out beachcombing, seems to get attacked by invisible forces on the beach, and he mysteriously drowns. It soon becomes apparent that these invisible creatures that attacked him are emerging from the sea and are hostile to humans. And things become more intense. A small group of villagers gather together and take refuge in someone's house while under siege from the creatures outside. And most of the plot takes place during the siege. And we come to learn that these beings are in fact giant crustaceans, possibly extraterrestrial in origin, although it's never really explained. And what's more, they have psychic powers, and they're intelligent, and they're capable of manipulating people, using these powers, influencing their thoughts, and essentially hypnotizing people into a heightened emotional state, which they can exploit for their own ends. So thus, we have this situation where we've got the siege, we've got these creatures outside trying to kill the people in the house, but they can't break in. So what they do is they can play mind games on these villagers and encourage them to turn on one another. So what follows is a kind of intense psychodrama. It's a ridiculous premise, but there's certainly some potential here with this idea to create a kind of entertaining pulp suspense novel using these ideas, but it fails pretty badly, in my opinion. The pacing is incredibly slow. Nothing much really happens for most of the book. The author spends a huge amount of time building up these characters and exploring their strained relationships as things get more tense while they get cooped up together and they're under hypnotic influence. Much of the dialogue is just endless bickering and quarrelling among the characters. And we've also got an absurd love triangle going on between the main character, who's a bit of an annoying character in himself, his rich widow girlfriend, and another girl who has also taken refuge in this building and for some reason falls head over heels for the main character during the siege. If that sounds unconvincing, remember these people are suffering from psychic manipulations, possibly by the sea crabs or whatever they are, which is the ideal excuse, actually, for the main guy to succumb to this girl's seductions when it comes down to it. Anyway, the whole thing reads like a ridiculous soap opera, and it's not at all interesting. The characters are not interesting or believable to make any of this worthwhile. And the sci-fi horror elements, which often just seem to get relegated to the background, are extremely underwhelming, I think. It's never adequately explained where these creatures come from or what their motivations are for invading and attacking humans. How have they got these powers? What are they doing? None of this is explained. And ultimately, we get quite a hollow and disappointing story. So, unfortunately, it was a poor start to my 2025 reading. I think this book deserves to remain in pulp 1960s obscurity. If you want to read a decent seaside horror alternative, you'd be better off with Night of the Crabs by Guyan Smith, which I also read recently and reviewed on this channel, which has some definite overlap in themes and setting with this book, but with much more action and a faster pace and more gore and some very cringeworthy sex scenes. It's very trashy in tone, but it's far more entertaining than this book. So, The Coming of the Strangers, I cannot recommend this book. I think I gave it 1 star on Goodreads. I'm going to give it 1.5 stars here. And the only reason I'm giving it this extra half star is because I do really like that cover art. So 1.5 stars. Not a great start to my reading this year, but the book I'm going to go on to next is Dayworld: A Hole in Wednesday, which is the prequel to Philip Jose Farmer's Dayworld series. So I'm going to read these books, and there are 4 of them in total, and I'm going to alternate between this series and other books. I think for my next book after this one, I'm going to choose. I'm going to use the help of my TBR picker. So I'm going to do that now. Actually, I'm going to use my TBR picker to give me a prompt for my next read. Okay, let's see what I get as my next TBR prompt. A sequel. So, a sequel, I've had a look through my bookshelves and I've picked out 3 sequels to books I've previously read. And I'm going to choose one of these. So the first option is Around the Moon by Jules Verne, which is the sequel to From the Earth to the Moon, which I read a couple of years ago and I was a little bit underwhelmed by. But I do generally enjoy Jules Verne, and it's the last book in this box set I've got here. And it'll be quite satisfying to finish this box set because I've read all of the other books here. The next option is Foundation and Empire by Isaac Asimov, which is the second book in the original Foundation trilogy. I read Foundation last year, and I would like to continue with these books, and I do love this vintage cover. And the other sequel I picked out is 2010 Odyssey 2 by Arthur C. Clarke, the sequel to 2001 A Space Odyssey, which was one of my top reads last year. We've got this nice hardback here. So, between these 3 books, let's see. I'm thinking I'm going to go for Asimov, Foundation and Empire, because I really need to complete the Foundation trilogy, and I'm inspired by a comment I got recently from Ira from SF Words of Wonder, who encouraged me to continue with these books. I did find the first book quite dated in its style, but in a kind of endearing way. I did enjoy the ideas in the first book, and I think I'll probably enjoy this book as well. I want to see how the series develops from here. So yeah, after Day World of Holland Wednesday, I'm going to move on to Foundation and Empire.